Meter dari sini ke situ sudah hilang sampai di situ.
When he first saw it, it was crouching down. Then it stood up, and then it runs away very fast. He said he's sure it was on two legs the whole time he saw it, not least because it was raising its arms in the air as it ran away.
Look at that! Oh my gosh! Where'd it go?
Across forests, mountains, and remote wildernesses, fleeting glimpses of something colossal have been captured in shaky footage and first-hand accounts. From the deep shadows of dense woodlands to quiet clearings where the ordinary suddenly feels uneasy, witnesses describe massive figures with long limbs and deliberate movements. Whether seen by hikers, hunters, or hidden cameras, these encounters leave behind only footprints, rustling leaves, and an unsettling sense that something intelligent may be observing from just beyond sight. This footage was uploaded on the YouTube channel Monster Myth. Deep in a dense forest, a hiker's ordinary trek turns into something chilling. Most trails are uneventful, but what appears in this footage is anything but normal. The camera catches a massive, shadowy figure slipping between the trees, its long limbs moving with an eerie grace. It doesn't run. It doesn't hide completely. It pauses just enough to reveal its size, its presence, before melting back into the shadows. The camera shakes as the hiker stumbles backward, breath visible in the cold air, trying to follow the movement. Every second feels heavier than the last, each snap of twigs echoing like a warning. What appears in these fleeting moments is both terrifying and fascinating.
Where'd it go? Oh, there. Look at that. What the heck is that?
A glimpse of something that shouldn't exist, yet clearly does. Up next, we follow a hiker exploring off the marked trail, capturing a moment that has left many questioning what truly lurks in the forest. The hiker moves cautiously through the dense woods, phone in hand, every step crunching against fallen leaves. Sunlight barely filters through the thick canopy, and the air hangs heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. He pauses, scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. Out of the corner of his eye, a massive figure steps between the trees. At first, it looks like a bear, broad, dark, moving with heavy, deliberate strides. But as it draws closer, its posture and gait feel wrong, unnatural, unlike anything he has seen. The creature doesn't seem to notice him at all, moving through the forest with a strange, controlled confidence, as if the hiker and his camera are invisible. The footage has sparked intense debate. Was this just a bear, or could it be something far stranger hiding in the shadows? Deep in the forests of Baxter, Tennessee, Daniel Whitehead, a local outdoorsman and avid cryptid researcher, moves cautiously, every step measured, every snap of a twig echoing through the dense trees. Known for documenting strange occurrences in the wild, Daniel approaches the forest with patience and a sharp eye, always alert for the unexplained. The air feels heavy, almost alive, as if the woods themselves are watching. Then, something shifts in the shadows. A huge dark shape looms, massive and silent, lingering just out of reach. It doesn't run, it doesn't hide. It studies him, deliberate, aware, testing the boundaries of its forest. Daniel retreats briefly, returning with caution, but when he comes back, the figure has vanished.
Do you see that? Do you see that?
I'm afraid. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Valen, you see that?
leaving only rustling leaves and an unsettling stillness. Real or staged, the encounter is a chilling reminder. Some forests guard secrets, and some watchers are not meant to be seen. Few encounters are as startling as this one, captured in Ohio on the Wargun Channel. Most Bigfoot stories come from dense wilderness, but this happened in broad daylight in a place no one would expect. The video opens with a woman standing in a sunlit clearing, her hands shaking as she lifts the camera. Quiet, ordinary. Then, from the edge of the space, a massive figure appears, taller and broader than a human, moving with a deliberate, unsettling gait. She films as it moves past the grass and small trees, each step heavy and fluid, leaving her frozen with fear and disbelief. Then, just as suddenly, it vanishes into the shadows, leaving only the wavering camera and the haunting question: what had she really seen? Eyes scan the clearing again, every shadow twisting fear tighter. Her hands shook as she searched, heart hammering, knowing something was out there. At first, it seemed as if the creature had vanished.
Look at that! Oh my gosh! Look at it go. Come on, camera, focus. It's gone.
Leaving only the whisper of leaves and the weight of the unknown. Then, from the dense underbrush, it appeared. Sudden, massive, and deliberate. She caught a fleeting glimpse, and a chill ran through her as instinct screamed to step back.
Wait. There it is! There it goes.
The figure moved with quiet authority, never once glancing her way, slipping silently into the shadows while she stood frozen, breathless, and haunted by what she had just witnessed.
Oh my goodness.
Hidden deep in the northern forests of America, a videographer captured something that immediately raises questions. The footage appears on the YouTube channel Bigfoot Encounters North America, known for rare cryptid sightings in remote regions. The forest sits in uneasy silence, the air thick, as if time itself has slowed to watch. Then, just beyond a cluster of trees, a towering shadow steps into view.
Okay, I've got a better angle, I think. See that thing moving? Something's moving. Something is moving. Freak. You gotta be kidding me. Okay.
Standing at least 8 feet, its dark glossy fur catches the light. It pauses, aware of the camera, moving with deliberate, cautious intent. Moments later, it slips back into the shadows, disappearing as suddenly as it appeared. Earlier footage shows it wandering at a distance, unaware it was being recorded, lending credibility to the encounter. Every detail, the size, the presence, the realistic fur, the behavior, matches decades of Bigfoot reports. And yet, the forest keeps its secrets, leaving viewers to wonder, what else is out there, watching? This footage was uploaded on the YouTube channel Sasquatch Mafia, a channel known for uncovering the strangest and most remote mysteries of North America's forests. It was a crisp February day, the sun high, but filtered through thick grey clouds, casting shifting shadows over the dense evergreen canopy. Cold currents moved slowly through the forest, twisting like a ribbon of silver, while the tall trees whispered in the chilly wind. The team weren't Bigfoot hunters. They were simply documenting the wilderness when something unimaginable appeared. A massive, hulking figure stepped into the water, its dark, matted form glistening in the muted light. Each movement was deliberate, the river rippling and churning as if afraid to resist. By midday, the creature was fully in view. Its immense size, powerful posture, and eerie awareness far beyond anything anyone could expect. A haunting reminder that this forest hides secrets darker and more terrifying than we can imagine. As night fell like a black velvet sheet, a lone driver navigated the icy, snow-covered road. The fading sunlight had vanished, leaving only the pale glow of headlights cutting through the darkness. Suddenly, something appeared directly in front of the car, a towering, silent figure frozen against the snowy landscape. It didn't move, didn't flinch, as if it had stepped out of the shadows themselves. The driver's breath caught, heart pounding, facing a presence far larger and more menacing than anything imagined. Its long, muscular arms hung low, nearly grazing the icy ground, as its massive legs stood firm, like pillars of shadow. Could this massive, shadowy figure finally be Bigfoot, Dogman, Yeti, or some other legendary creature whispered about for generations? This footage comes from the YouTube channel Bigfoot Testimony. In a fog-drenched forest, a lone hiker moved cautiously along a narrow trail, the river beside him whispering over mossy rocks. Then, from the shadows, it emerged. A towering figure, cloaked in dark, matted fur, its long arms swinging with eerie ease. For a moment, it tried to hide behind a tree, but suddenly, it thrust its massive head out from the branches, staring straight at the hiker. The sight froze him in place, heart hammering. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the creature slipped silently back into the underbrush, leaving only the river's murmur and the hiker's ragged breaths behind. What had just crossed the path? Something massive, something wild, and undeniably real. Under the cold glow of a night vision lens, deep within a dense, silent forest, an eerie moment unfolds. It appears to be sometime past midnight, the air damp and heavy with a chilling stillness. A shadowy, hunched figure moves unnaturally on all fours near a pale tree trunk, its elongated limbs creating an unsettling silhouette. No wind stirs, no wildlife calls, only this fleeting presence captured in the darkness. Was this a Bigfoot-like creature lurking in the shadows, or something even more unknown watching from the forest? Unlike the previous night vision encounter wrapped in darkness and silence, this moment unfolds in the muted tones of late afternoon, where the forest feels deceptively calm. Dry autumn leaves cling to thin branches, forming a dense natural screen. Behind it, a dark, bulky figure stands partially concealed, upright, motionless, and unsettlingly out of place. No sound, no movement disturbs the scene. Was this a Bigfoot-like creature silently observing from the cover, a hidden predator blending with its surroundings, or simply an illusion crafted by light, shadow, and the mind? More convincing than the distant figure in daylight, and far more concrete than the nighttime glimpse, this scene presents something you can't easily ignore. A massive footprint is pressed deep into fresh snow, its shape unusually clear, with distinct toe impressions that feel almost human, yet far too large. Beside it, a tool lies for scale, emphasizing its unnatural size. The quiet, frozen setting suggests early morning stillness. What left this behind? A Bigfoot-like presence, an unknown species, or something science has yet to explain? In the shadow of a long abandoned mine, a man ventured from his secluded cabin, phone in hand, documenting the forest's quiet pulse. He moved deliberately, pausing here and there, unaware that unseen eyes followed his every step. Hours later, the footage revealed what he never noticed. At the edge of the frame, a massive, dark figure emerged, its presence fleeting, yet undeniable. He had been tired, squinting at the screen outdoors after a long trek, zooming in almost absent-mindedly. And yet, the forest had recorded it all. Unedited, raw, and hauntingly real, the video hints at a presence both patient and watchful. It skirted the edges, lingering just beyond each, aware of the intruder in its domain. The encounter is a silent warning. Some parts of the wilderness are alive in ways we cannot see, and some secrets are never meant to be discovered. High on the rugged hillside, the Whatnot channel's camera sweeps across the uneven terrain. At first, only rocks and patches of bare earth are visible. But then, something moves. Near a pale, exposed patch of ground, a dark shape stirs, deliberate and watchful. It shifts, almost slipping back into shadow, but not before revealing itself, alive, silent, and impossible to ignore. Whatever it is, it seems to sense the gaze of the camera, lingering for just a heartbeat before vanishing into the hillside's secrets.
Okay, you see that little bald spot on the ground? Right on like the second one in. Zoom in. Check that out. Zoom in. It's right there. Is that a bear? There's something right on that clear spot right there. It's dark. It just moved a little bit. Do you see anything? No, not the first one. Not the first one. Drop down. It's the second one. There's 3 little bald spots there. Look at the second one through. There's something dark right there. I think I saw it move.
I saw something.
Right there. Are you seeing that? Holy. Right there. Just zoom in. Right there. Are you seeing that? Oh, we gotta get down there.
I saw something. What? I just saw it again.
Holy smokes.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Look at that.
Near the second clearing, a shadow stirs. Dark, deliberate, almost merging with the hillside. A flicker of movement catches the eye, and for a heartbeat, it seems alive, aware of being watched. Zooming closer, the shape shifts again, unlike any ordinary creature. Heart racing, the moment lingers. Tense, fleeting, and impossible to look away from. In the open clearing, a colossal shape stands, legs long and sharply defined, moving with an uncanny, almost predatory grace. One arm swings naturally, the other pressed tightly against its side, as if hiding an injury or guarding something unseen.
Okay.
Now that doesn't look like a bear, does it?
No, it's crazy good.
That was upright.
Watch it again.
Yeah, it's walking. That is
Okay, right
walking
there.
upright.
That is bipedal, upright walking.
God, and you know how far you're away, too. That thing looks pretty big, man.
Those legs look long and lean. I mean, that just doesn't look like, they don't look like bear legs.
It didn't look like a bear head either.
No.
Can you go back a frame? Is there any arm swing?
Where is the right arm?
Yeah.
You see the left arm?
Yeah.
Where's the right arm?
It almost makes it seem like maybe it might have injured the arm or broke it in the scuffle, and then maybe it's holding it close to its body, you know?
Getting something like this is why I couldn't stop.
Its gaze seems to sweep the area, deliberate and calculating, every subtle motion charged with quiet menace. The shadows cling to it, highlighting its massive frame, and even the wind seems to pause, leaving the clearing suspended in tense anticipation.
So I thought my best bet was to get together, take you all to the area where I last had eyes on this thing. I want to go back to where this fight, and we can start working that area. Right here is where the cabin was. The fight scene took place right here, and this is where I got that footage. That creature is going west.
Great job, man. This is obviously the turning point in our investigation, and I think it's one to move on. I'm gonna head back to the command center and start making some calls, but we need to move fast.
Biko and I will go get our gear, and then we'll meet you in that area.
Yeah, perfect.
I'll hop in right with you.
Let's do it.
Whatever it is, it exudes a presence both ancient and intelligent, a creature that feels aware of every eye tracing its movements. A chilling encounter was captured on the YouTube channel Animal Planet in a forest where shadows seemed to breathe. Locals had long whispered of a creature, half man, half legend, dismissed for generations as mere folklore. Until now, the shaky camera trembles as a colossal figure steps into view, taller than any human, its lean form gliding through the underbrush with astonishing grace. It remains upright on two legs, arms raised behind its head, a gesture both defensive and imposing. Every movement is deliberate, fluid, and unnervingly intelligent, as if the forest itself bends around it. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure melted into the shadows, leaving behind a chilling reminder. The wild still conceals secrets far closer and far more aware than anyone could imagine.
Dari sini ke situ sudah hilang sampai di situ.
When he first saw it, it was crouching down. Then it stood up, and then it runs away very fast. He said he's sure it was on two legs the whole time he saw it, not least because it was raising its arms in the air as it ran away.
It had been crouched low, almost merging with the forest floor, before springing upright in an instant and disappearing with astonishing speed. Every step remained on two legs, deliberate and fluid, while its long arms stretched high above, a gesture both protective and unnerving. In that brief, fleeting moment, it revealed a presence that was intelligent, wary, and utterly otherworldly, vanishing before the world could fully grasp it. Take a look at this footage from the D-Max UK channel. The day had been unusually still, the kind of quiet that makes every sound sharper, every shadow seem alive. A distant hill rises into view, and something dark moves across the slope. At first glance, it seems like a small black bear, casually navigating the terrain. But as the camera focuses, the figure pauses, then shifts in a way that feels deliberate, aware, almost calculating. And then, it rises, upright.
Zach, that thing just stood up like you and I would just stand up. Look at that. Dude!
Smooth, controlled, impossibly human in posture, yet far larger than any man. For a tense moment, it locks eyes with the observer, as if judging him, before retreating into the shadows with impossible speed. Leaves crunch, the wind whispers, and the hill returns to silence. Except now, the lingering question remains: what exactly had been standing there? On Sanctuary as Beauty, the most unsettling moments often begin quietly, as they did for Garnet Stevenson on February 23, 2018, during what should have been a routine drive home through empty farmland. Beneath a grey, drizzling sky, she noticed a lone figure crossing the open field. At first, it looked human, but something about its movement, unnatural, almost imitative, felt deeply wrong, especially knowing the land's owner had died only days earlier. The realization left her with a chilling sense that whatever she was seeing did not belong there at all.
And I was coming home from grocery shopping, approximately 2:30 in the afternoon. I was coming down our road, and on the right side of the road is all farm fields, alfalfa fields. And it was thawed off, there was no snow, and it was kind of raining out. And I saw a man, which I thought was walking across, kitty corner across this alfalfa field. There was just something about him that didn't look right, and I started thinking about it. The farmer who owned the property had just a week before that.
As the moment intensified, she slowed her truck and stopped along the roadside, her eyes fixed on the figure now clearly visible in the open field. What stood there was no ordinary person, but a towering, pitch-dark silhouette, featureless from head to toe, with long arms hanging beneath broad, almost necklace shoulders. Even more unsettling was the way it moved, advancing with a bent, uneven stride that didn't quite resemble walking at all, instead seeming to glide across the ground with an eerie speed that felt completely out of place.
And then I stopped the truck on the side of the road, and I realized this person was all black. like head to toe. There wasn't a hat, a shirt, an umbrella, anything. It was at least 8 foot tall. I never saw his face, pretty long arm swing. From the back, from what I saw, it didn't look like he had much of a neck. It was like wide shoulders and just like, you know, like a bump on his shoulders, kind of like he was just like this. And they were walking odd with a bent knee almost, but gliding across this field. And they went across this field really quite fast because we had trail ridden across this field my whole life.
Partially obscured by the thick brush at the field's edge, only the upper portion of the figure remained visible, yet its massive, unnaturally broad shoulders were impossible to ignore against the dim, rain-soaked backdrop. Then, with a sudden, fluid shift, it turned and slipped down into a nearby ravine, vanishing almost instantly, leaving her standing in stunned silence as the weight of the moment settled in. What she had just witnessed wasn't ordinary. It was something she would never be able to explain.
And you could see probably from its rear end up, because there was like brush on the side of this field, and you could just see how wide its shoulders were, and then it just turned and it dropped down into this ravine. And I just remember standing there in the rain going, oh my God, I just saw a Bigfoot.
That morning, she stepped outside to scatter food for the birds, the grass lightly glazed with ice from the cold dawn. Her dogs wandered ahead, but one paused, investigating a patch near the driveway with unusual focus. As she drew closer, she noticed a deep, unusual mark pressed into the frozen ground, almost like a footprint left deliberately off the path. Curious, she carefully preserved it with expanding foam and later made a full cast, revealing a remarkably detailed track, evidence of something massive and mysterious that had passed through.
I came out from my downstairs door to feed my birds in the morning, and it was kind of frosty on the grass. It wasn't really snowy. And my dogs went out, and my dogs were sniffing around. My one dog kept sniffing this one area, and it was really close to my driveway. Finally, I walk over and I'm looking at, and it was an impression in the frozen grass. And the more I got to looking at it, the more it looked like a footprint. It looked like something had walked along the driveway and then just put 1 foot off onto the grass. I went and I decided to cast it with Great Stuff foam, and then I later went in and I got casting material. It really shows a really great print of a Bigfoot track.
Lawrence Huff, an experienced outdoorsman and lifelong hunter, was walking up his driveway with his 2 German shepherds when they suddenly bolted toward the tree line, barking and growling at something hidden in the shadows. He rushed after them, pushing through the trees and catching only brief glimpses through the brush. By the time he reached the spot, all he saw were a pair of legs disappearing into the woods, an unsettling sign of a presence both swift and unnatural, leaving him frozen in fear and disbelief.
My first experience was I was walking up the driveway and we had 2 German shepherds, and all of a sudden they started chasing something, and it was in the woods. And I didn't really see what they were chasing at first. The only time I could see it was after I go past the tree, and I was able to catch up to it and see what it was. And at that time, all I could see was just 2 legs. And then they chased it and chased it. They didn't come back for a couple hours.
A subtle ripple ran through their forms, barely visible in the pale moonlight. A smaller figure followed, mirroring the same strange fluid movement. Half hidden in shadow, they seemed almost unreal, leaving an eerie sense of something watching from the darkness.
It looked like they just shivered, and all down their body, it was like everybody says it was a predator, but it wasn't that shiny, but you could still see it from the moonlight. And then there was another one there, and I don't know if he was a younger one or the next year's juvenile. It took him a little bit to do it, and then you could still see him, just like he shivered, and it just all went. I could still see them. I couldn't actually see them like I could see you. They were all like cloaked, but I could only see them in the moonlight.
Encounters with Bigfoot have been whispered about for decades, with countless tales circulating in every corner of the country. Skeptics shrug it off, while others insist it roams the forests quietly, observing but never interfering. The unspoken rule seems simple: respect its world, and it respects yours, a paradox that has puzzled those who claim to have glimpsed it. This is the story of an outdoor explorer named Rob Hoff, the creator behind the channel Rob Hoff Adventures. For years, he's hiked and filmed some of the most remote and mysterious trails in the US, often capturing moments that defy explanation. His videos reveal the thrill and the danger of venturing into the unknown. But on one recent hike, Rob came across something so strange in the trees that it made him question everything he thought he knew and forced him to stop in his tracks. The adventure began on Pikes Peak, where a seemingly ordinary view hid a shape that shouldn't have been there.
This week I'm going to go through something really weird that happened to me on the trail recently. Check out this clip here. This is a clip from one of my early trips up to take pictures of Pikes Peak. You can see in the upper left-hand corner, right in the trees there, there's a really weird shape. So I zoomed in. Now look at this.
The image in the trees refused to leave his mind. Unsure what it was, he returned to the trail, determined to uncover the truth. Step by step, he moved through the quiet forest, scanning every shadow for clues. At the exact spot where the shape first appeared, nothing seemed out of place, yet the tension was undeniable. It was his first time facing something so mysterious, and the unease was impossible to ignore.
I know what you're thinking, and I'm not sure what this thing is, but I had to find out. So I went back to the spot. I started hiking up, and I had to figure out what I was looking at, see if I could find any more evidence.
All right, I'm back up to the scene of the crime. And so far, no signs of anything weird or strange. I am a little bit nervous, though.
Among the fallen trees and scattered bark, something unexpected appeared. A set of massive footprints. They were enormous, stretching far beyond the reach of his hands, even compared to his own large shoes. The impressions were fresh, carved into the earth as if whatever left them had just passed. He moved carefully along the trail, a mix of curiosity and unease tightening with every step. Alone in this remote stretch of forest, the realization hit. This was bigger and far stranger than anything he had anticipated.
If I can find anything, some downed trees or bark, but oh, no way. Check this out. You serious? Yeah. All right, I just want you to see how big this is. My hand doesn't even go halfway across the forefoot. Look how big it is compared to I wear a size 13 shoes. So I'm following in the direction of the footprints. They looked somewhat fresh, but I don't know what I'm gonna find up here. I really... What was that? I should have come up here with somebody else.
A sudden crack echoed through the forest, sharp against the quiet. The wind, or something moving just out of sight. Darkness pressed in, shadows shifting with every heartbeat. Nothing emerged, but the forest felt alive, watching. Unease tightened like a vice, and with every cautious step back down the trail, the question lingered. What had been there, and was it still?
Branch break. I don't know if it's the wind. Is there somebody over there? Hello?
I spent some time searching the area, but by then it was pretty dark and I was ready to get out of there. I didn't know what was lurking in the woods.
Alright, I'm not seeing anything, but there's something weird up here. I'm not quite sure what's going on. I think I'm gonna head down.
He returned with only a few fragments of evidence, each one raising more questions than answers. The encounter had left a lingering unease. Something in the woods was watching, unseen. He couldn't shake the feeling that others might have experienced the same. With the forest still holding its secrets, he left a warning. Tread carefully, stay curious, and respect what might be waiting just beyond sight.
So I came back with a few clues, and I'm not quite sure what this all means. This was weird. This is a really weird experience. Let me know in the comments. I don't want to say the B word or the S word. Let me know if you've had an experience like this. I don't know what to say. Until next time though, try to get outside a little bit. Watch out for Bigfoots.
In the end, the forest kept its secrets, the footprints and shadows whispering of something far larger, something unseen. Every sound, every movement hinted at a presence just beyond understanding. But one question lingers. When you step into the wild, how close are you really to the unknown? On the Weekly Strange, the unusual isn't whispered, it's witnessed. Host John F. Mers brings us a striking daylight encounter at the meeting point of two rivers in Bryan County, Oklahoma. This isn't a story from hidden swamps or distant mountains. What appeared before witnesses was undeniable. A moment that challenges everything we think we know about the unknown.
Hello everyone and welcome to Extra Strange. I'm your host, John F. Mers. Okay, so today we are looking at a very recent high-credibility Class A report from the BFRO database, report number 79845. This encounter didn't happen in the deep mountains or the thick swamps. It happened in an open view in broad daylight at the intersection of two rivers in Bryan County, Oklahoma.
Just as the evening sun dipped, a family's quiet drive along a river corridor took an unexpected turn, enjoying a routine outing, cresting a gentle rise only to freeze in disbelief. Across the river, moving deliberately along a cleared powerline path, a shadowy figure appeared, something utterly out of place, impossible to ignore.
The three witnesses were a family, a husband, his wife, and their adult stepson. And they were doing something that many Oklahomans do, many people in general do, taking a drive out to the river to enjoy the evening. As their truck crested a hill overlooking the river, they weren't expecting to see anything other than water and trees. But as they came over that rise, they spotted a figure across the river. It was moving across a power line easement.
The creature came to an abrupt halt, its gaze fixed on the truck as it crested the hill. One witness, drawn forward despite a surge of fear, stepped closer and saw something impossible. An immense figure standing with unnerving stillness, every movement deliberate, every shadow alive. Its thick, wild hair shimmered in the fading light, and the sheer presence of it twisted the ordinary evening into something unrecognizable. For a heartbeat, time seemed to hold, as if the world itself was waiting to see what would happen next.
The creature saw the truck immediately. According to the witnesses, it stopped in its tracks as soon as they came over the hill. The wife, who was 39, got out of the truck to get a better look. She describes a moment of pure visceral realization. She wasn't looking at a hunter. She wasn't looking at a shadow. She was looking at a living, breathing creature that she estimated was at least 7 to 8 feet tall. One of the more interesting details in this report is the description of the creature's hair.
The sun dipped low, backlighting the figure so that its silhouette seemed to glow with an uncanny reddish sheen. Its hair, dark yet alive in the fading light, moved with a natural rhythm that no artificial material could mimic. Heart hammering, the witness called out, trying to draw its attention. For a heartbeat, it paused, turning its head to glance back, a moment of connection before vanishing silently into the thickening forest. Mere seconds stretched into a lifetime. Yet even this fleeting glimpse left a mark, undeniable and haunting, in the record of extraordinary sightings.
The witness described the hair as being a very dark brown, but because of the backlighting from the setting sun, it had a distinct red tint or glow. Now, this is a detail that we've seen before in many high-quality sightings, the way the sun interacts with the coarse hair of a Sasquatch. It didn't look like some sort of synthetic fur. It looked like biological hair catching the light. The witness, desperate for a reaction, hollered as loud as she could to get its attention.
For researchers, this sighting was invaluable. By comparing the creature to nearby utility poles, its massive size became clear. Even from across the river, its towering presence left no doubt. Any claim it was merely a tall person quickly vanished, replaced by an undeniable sense of something otherworldly.
And this is a gift for researchers. By knowing the exact poles the creature was next to, we can determine its height with mathematical near certainty. In her report, the witness was confident that even from across the river, the creature's stature was immense. When a bipedal figure stands next to industrial power infrastructure, the "it was just a tall man" argument usually falls apart.
This family isn't new to strange encounters along the river. It had long been a stage for strange encounters. Years earlier, a man was alone in his boat late at night when a deep, guttural roar erupted from the riverbank. It wasn't any animal he recognized. Something about the sound pressed on him with an overwhelming sense of menace. Shaken to his core, he barely made it to shore, nearly abandoning his boat and all his gear in the darkness.
Included in this BFRO report is a harrowing story from the husband dating back to October 21st, 2008. He was fishing in the river alone at 2 a.m., and he was in his boat when a sound erupted from the bank that he describes as a very, very vocally loud grunt. It wasn't a pig and it wasn't a territorial buck. The sound carried such a weight and such a vocal quality that it struck him with an immediate, overwhelming sense of dread. He was so terrified that when he got back to the shore, he almost abandoned his boat and all of his gear right there on the bank.
They crested the hill and froze. The figure was there, watching. A shouted call made it hesitate, glance back for a heartbeat, then vanish into the trees. The witnesses, spanning generations, all saw the same towering silhouette. All noticed the subtle reddish glow of its hair. In broad daylight, with multiple eyes on the same impossible sight, there's no room for doubt or imagination. Only the undeniable presence of something truly unknown. On the remote ridges and winding waterways of the West, the Western Bigfoot expedition searches where wildlife roams and footprints appear. Each trek is guided by whispers of history, signs of movement, and the rhythms of the forest. Some areas hint at Sasquatch, others guard their secrets, but every step draws the team closer to the unknown. While driving along a secluded forest road, the team's eyes caught a subtle disturbance among the undergrowth, broken branches and scattered debris that seemed almost deliberate.
So we're just driving down this road here, and happened to look out the window, and I just kind of noticed this. Now there's some deadfall here. We're gonna look at this break right here, and now it's funny. Well, there's human activity because there's a can of Coors Banquet. Wow. But this looks old.
Yeah, this got broken over a long time ago.
Little things like this, you know. Last time we focused on some tree breaks like that, we pulled Sasquatch hair out of it.
At first glance, it could have been human, but closer inspection hinted at something far older, something the wilderness itself seemed to guard. In past expeditions, similar signs had revealed strands of strange, unexplainable hair, appearing wherever footprints, sightings, or manipulated branches suggested the presence of an unknown creature. Across North America, these silent traces continue to challenge what is known, drawing the explorers deeper into the forest's hidden mysteries. Jonathan Brown, a seasoned tracker and longtime explorer of the Pacific Northwest, shares his thoughts on Sasquatch in western Washington. He believes they don't need to move as much as their eastern counterparts, where harsh winters and shifting game force constant travel.
It's older, but it's in a straight line. It's got a good breadth. Prints are big.
A couple of them look a bit interesting, but they also look a little old. Just like the Go Road all over again.
Just about.
Look at that.
See, so this one. What's interesting about this is that the needles are pressed into the dirt.
Correct.
You can almost maybe see a toe-ish action here, but you got this. Like
look, it looks almost like a step, and maybe you have this. See how this is pushed up like a ridge?
Out here on the west side, it's more temperate, more food around. almost like the coastal tribes long ago. They didn't need to wander far. In the eastern mountains, the harsher winters and wandering herds likely push Sasquatch to cover vast distances, constantly on the move. On the milder western side, travel isn't as urgent, though during the warmer months they may shift between higher and lower terrain, following the land's subtle patterns while staying largely within familiar territory. He turned the camera, and something in the edge of the trees caught his eye. Through the thermal scope, a shadowy form moved low, almost gliding along the forest floor, blending with leaves and broken branches. Then it shifted in a way that made no sense.
Thermal technology was pretty primitive, but I'll walk you through the sighting. Flip the camera around. So he walked up here and he began to take a leak. Camp is behind me. Now he turned and he looked over here, and in those trees there, through his thermal imager, he saw a figure standing. And from what he describes, it went down kind of on its stomach. It started doing like a swimming motion on the ground, almost like if it's trying to bury itself in the debris around it. Then it almost did like this strange yoga pose looking thing. One thing that he noticed:
arching, twisting, almost like a creature stretching into an unnatural pose. A massive hand rose, fingers splayed, reaching skyward in a gesture both eerie and inexplicable, leaving him frozen in disbelief at what the night had revealed.
Was that it put its hand up. He can see all 5 fingers, his big hand, almost like it was reaching up for like a high five off the ground, and he couldn't figure out what that was, and it took him a long time, and he figured out finally that it was blocking the ambient light from a campfire that was behind him. So this Sasquatch was on the ground with its hand up, blocking the ambient light so he can get a better look at him. And he was trying to call people back in camp.
Missy Martinson, a longtime Bigfoot researcher and seasoned wilderness explorer, recalls a quiet evening at camp with Rachel, her daughter, Lydia, riding her bike while music played softly. Suddenly, Tristan asked if they'd heard a knock. Behind the tent, a rustling moved through the brush, alive yet unseen, turning the calm night tense and charged.
In camp catching up, Lydia, Nick's daughter, was riding her bike around camp, and we were listening to Disney music. So, like, kind of typical kid playing, just quiet night at camp. We weren't planning anything. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Tristan comes over and came over and said, "Did you guys just hear that wood knock?" And we said, "No, we've been talking and, you know, the music's playing." At about 8:15, behind John Ray's tent on the north end, we could hear noise. It wasn't movement, just noise, like something rummaging around or something. But it was loud. About 8:30, same thing happened again.
As daylight faded into twilight, a figure emerged from beside their tent. It took a couple of deliberate steps before slipping into the shadows of the woods toward the road.
Everything starts to look grainy in the woods, especially. Just your eyes are switching from day to night, and I see a figure come out from next to John Ray's tent, took 2 steps, went into the woods towards the road, and that was it. But the thing was, it was solid black against the twilight night. Its arms were super exaggerated. It was probably about 6 foot tall. It wasn't huge.
Against the dimming sky, it was pitch black, its elongated arms strikingly unnatural. Standing around 6 feet, it wasn't massive, but its presence was enough to freeze the onlookers, leaving them staring in disbelief.
And we all kind of were like, well, that's weird. You heard a knock over here, and now we're hearing something weird coming from around John Ray's tent. So I walked over. John was in his tent, and I said, "Have you heard anything from around your tent?" And he said, "No, I haven't heard anything. My ears are bad." And I was like, okay. So I went back to where we were all sitting, and we're just talking. It's twilight, and at that...
Silently asking themselves what they had just seen. The footprints pressed into the soil with striking detail.
Of the same size, like look at that one right there, you know? It look like a foot?
Yeah.
So this one looks like a foot as well. We're gonna cast up to like here, just get the full, what looks like the depth. What I like about it, there's a stick here in the toes, and the toes kind of, you know, go around it. I feel like if it was ungulate, it would have just stepped down and really mashed that stick down a lot deeper. Now there's a lot of small top debris.
Heels angled, toes splayed, curving around a stick left in the ground.
Debris, and be really careful to not disturb the information that's under it. Mix I made, I totally messed up on the first one, so. I'm gonna make more. Okay. Real quick, hold on. The direction of the trail. All right, we're gonna try to extract this. I don't have a shovel, so I'm doing this in a non-conventional way.
Some impressions were faint, others clear, but together they trace the passage of something deliberate, leaving the forest quietly marked. The sun was climbing high as COA.G led the team back to the abandoned mine, its crumbling entrance hiding stories the forest refused to tell. Beyond the tangled trees, the lake shimmered like a silent witness, and every rustle hinted that they were not alone. Over the next few days, they would camp, explore, and chase whispers through the woods, each step a gamble, each shadow a question. Could the legendary creature they sought finally reveal itself?
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we are back at the abandoned mine. You guys remember we did a Bigfoot video in the wintertime. It was about 10 minutes away from here. Now this whole forest is connected. The lake is connected. It's all connected. Now, who's to say Bigfoot isn't coming to the mine? You know what I mean? So we are going to be spending a few days here and just investigating and hanging out, camping. So hopefully we capture Bigfoot today. That'd be really awesome.
The tunnel yawned ahead, black and silent, swallowing every ounce of light. Faint, unplaceable sounds flickered through the air, scratches, whispers, something moving just beyond vision. With each cautious step, the feeling of being followed grew, a cold presence pressing against the back of his neck. Then, a sudden shift in the shadows made him spin around, yet the darkness seemed to breathe, alive and watching.
I'm going to go this way to the creepy, dark, scary tunnel, hoping I capture something creepy on camera. The guys kept saying that they were hearing some weird things in here. I don't know what kind of things, but I think I might find out. What the f? I felt like something was just following me and I turned around. Hello?
The tunnel stretched ahead, suffocating in its silence. The others had already disappeared into the shadows, swallowed by the darkness. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, every sound amplified, every movement uncertain. Something enormous moved just out of sight, a presence that didn't belong. It was patient, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. With each step, the weight of the unknown pressed closer, daring him to go further.
What is that? What the actual is that? There's something there, like actually something there.
A sharp, sudden sound tore through the tunnel's stillness, echoing unnervingly off the walls. Shadows seemed to twitch in response, as if the darkness itself had shifted. Every step, every breath felt magnified, and an unshakable sense of being watched pressed in from all sides. The team's cameras captured the faintest flicker of movement, but nothing fully revealed itself. In that suspended moment, it was clear. Something unseen was aware, deliberate, and waiting for them to make the next move.
What the? Okay, we all just heard that. Yeah. That was the gravel that I heard inside.
That's what I heard too.
What? Dude, we searched through the whole area.
Wait, is there something there?
The truck sat battered, the echo of the impact still lingering in the air. Nothing about it made sense. No animal should have moved with such force, precision, or disregard. A heavy silence settled over the scene, thick with unasked questions. Was it a Sasquatch, a moose, or something far stranger, something deliberate? Every instinct screamed that this was no ordinary encounter, and whatever had struck them had left a warning that couldn't be ignored.
All right, listen, I'm not saying it's Bigfoot, but what if it was Bigfoot? Or what if it was a moose or a bear? Something.
Oh, it was enough to shake the RV.
Yeah, like I felt the sound of the hit. And then we have a big ass freaking hit on his truck right now. But like, I'm trying to understand. How does a moose or something just run into that? That makes no sense to me.
Like, why?
Can it not see that there's a truck here? Like, it's just running? You know what I mean? I'm actually genuinely pissed off right now. Like, his truck just got damaged here.
As they scrolled through the footage, an unfamiliar sound sliced through the silence. Sudden, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. Then, a flash on the screen. 2 glowing eyes, fixed and unblinking, staring from the shadows. For a heartbeat, time seemed to freeze. Nothing moved, yet everything screamed presence. What had been just a vague noise seconds before was now undeniable. A living, watching entity, caught in the lens, but still shrouded in darkness. What was that?
Hey, what's that sound? Hold on, I'm gonna go back. Turn up the audio. What? It was an actual sound. I don't see it.
Bro.
Oh! What is that? Wait. Wait, hold on. Hold on. Oh my god, we just caught something. Look at the eyes! Wait, go back, go back. Come on, where is it? Oh, there it is!
As the team examined what they'd captured, in the fading light, the truck's damage hinted at a force far beyond the ordinary, but it was the shadowed figure on the footage that truly unsettled them. Massive, imposing, and undeniably alive. Whatever it was, it moved with intent, leaving no doubt that the woods had been visited by something extraordinary, something that might just defy explanation. On Small Town Monster, Gail Beatty ventures deep into the Hudson Valley, a place famous for strange lights in the sky, and even stranger footsteps on the ground. Between dense forests and hidden trails, signs of Bigfoot have been quietly accumulating for years. Massive footprints, fleeting glimpses, and eerie noises that seem to follow the explorers. With a mix of curiosity and careful investigation, Gail brings these hidden stories to light, revealing a side of the valley most people never see, and challenging what we thought we knew about the world around us.
Hudson Valley is notorious for UFO sightings, and definitely there's a lot of Bigfoot activity here. As you can see behind us and all around us, we've gotten so much evidence of Sasquatch in this area that it's time to get it out to the public, I guess you could say.
Steve Coles, an investigator and storyteller fascinated by the unexplained, shares the eerie legends of the Hudson Valley and surrounding regions, where history and myth often intertwine. He recounts how Samuel de Champlain, while traveling the St. Lawrence River, learned from the people about the massive, hairy man-beast said to roam the forests. Decades later, in the 17s, Roberts Rangers, the British troops whose tactics would inspire the US Army Rangers, reported a strange encounter, bears seemingly throwing rocks at them. While physically impossible, so if it wasn't bears, then what creature or force was daring enough to challenge men in the wilderness? These accounts reflect a land where the unexplained lingers, and the line between reality and legend grows thin.
When Samuel D. Champlain was traveling up or down the St. Lawrence River, he had got in contact with the Micmac Indians, and they had talked about stories of the Go-Goo, which meant hairy man-beast. So that was one story. There was another account of Roberts Rangers in the 1750s. Now, Roberts Rangers is the military, the Revolutionary British contingent that the United States Army formed their Rangers on. And one of their reports in the 1750s spoke about a group of bears throwing rocks at them. And we all know bears can't throw rocks.
In the Hudson Valley, whispers of Bigfoot linger in the shadows, yet some indigenous elders tread carefully around the subject. They rarely share what they know, perhaps out of caution, tradition, or a belief that certain truths are not meant for outsiders. Their silence only deepens the valley's enigmatic reputation, hinting that the forest holds secrets far older and stranger than most are willing to speak aloud.
Some indigenous friends that when I bring up the subject of Bigfoot, they kind of shy away from talking about it, which, you know, that's fine. I mean, they don't have to tell me everything, but they don't really talk about it. I don't really understand why, but they just don't. They might not know very much about it, or they may not want to discuss it with someone else, I guess.
In Lower Dutchess County, New York, near the winding paths of the Appalachian Trail, Brian's family experienced something they couldn't explain. A relative, normally quick to dismiss tales of Bigfoot or aliens, caught sight of a figure moving unnaturally through the forest one quiet June morning. The image was fleeting but unforgettable, a shadow that vanished into the trees almost too fast to believe. Driven by curiosity, Brian returned to the area the next day, retracing the winding roads and dense woods, searching for any trace of the mysterious presence that had silently watched from the shadows.
From Pauling, outside of Pauling, New York. It's about an hour south of here, but Lower Dutchess County. I have a close family member who doesn't believe in, they believe in ghosts, but talk about Bigfoot or aliens. No, come on, get out of here. You believe in that, right? So anyway, they're driving on a June morning, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and a company car, and they look up and they see something walking off the road. And they texted me and said, I just saw something run in the woods. 10 minutes later, it was Bigfoot. I said, oh, I gotta hear this. The next day, we drove up and down that wooded road for miles.
During the 1980s, strange reports began surfacing across the Hudson Valley. Stories of a towering, shadowy creature moving silently through the forests. One of the most curious tales came from Bruce Hallenbeck, and his grandmother reported strange visitors slipping quietly through their backyard. Hoping to provoke a closer look, Bruce placed food atop a makeshift feeder, and what appeared next was both unsettling and extraordinary, suggesting an intelligence and awareness far beyond anything they had ever imagined.
It was so prevalent. Of course, there's the story with Bruce Hallenbeck and his grandmother and her sightings and some of his experiments he did.
I really think that it's Bigfoot. Oh, he was big, tall, and he was standing on his 2 feet just like a person, and covered with black hair. Oh my, terrible looking thing.
It's very elusive, whatever it is. In fact, Hallenbeck says this thing is so elusive that he'll sometimes see tracks and then they suddenly stop, as if the creature had vanished into thin air. The more you investigate, the weirder it gets, especially when you find those mysterious tracks, some of which have 3 toes, some of which have 5. It seems as though the creature is almost paranormal, that maybe it's something that's not quite of our reality, like a ghost. Maybe it can appear and disappear at will. I realize that sounds pretty wild, but I know there's something out there, and what it is, I have no idea.
Whispers of Bigfoot appears across almost every corner of the state, but Kinderhook and Whitehall seem to hold a deeper, darker focus. What once seemed like a handful of sightings now stretches into the hundreds, each encounter more mysterious than the last. These forests aren't just local legends. They're part of a puzzle that spans the globe, hinting at a presence that watches from the shadows, always just beyond reach.
State, you would come up with a history of Bigfoot reports. And so I don't know if Kinderhook and Whitehall are any different from other communities, but they just happen to be areas that have been sort of put under a magnifying glass, and you can see how many sightings. For instance, when John Green wrote his book, the apes among us. I think he had 11 sightings in New York and a few in Vermont. And then when we looked at that region, there's actually hundreds. So these are hot areas, but it's an all-encompassing global enigma.
These chilling Bigfoot encounters were captured by ordinary people who never expected to witness the unknown. Are these creatures real or just tricks of the light? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more mysterious footage.